Hello. Today's December 12th, and we're doing government and security stories to start your week. This is the Links with Friends show, which I forgot to mention first.
Welcome to the Links with Friends.
Today, you should go visit our store, level1text.com.
You could even share that link with your friends.
You could.
The KVMs are all in stock, and it's amazing. And I'm also wearing the Linus wardrobe because he sent me clothes.
Our merch.
We were commenting on that. It's pretty sharp.
Yeah. I was like, look at you wearing a flannel. You've got the programmer uniform on.
Thanks, Linus.
If you're ever in like a programming meeting, everyone's wearing flannels usually.
Though
that may have changed since the pandemic.
I used to adhere to that at all times, but I've switched now to the more comfortable shirts.
Yeah.
I don't regret it. But I do regret that the cable lobby has co-opted control of our government. And when the FCC tries to push back, they don't really push that hard, and they're really not solving the problems that need to be solved.
I love the Ars Technica headline. Cable lobbied FCC. Please don't look at our prices too closely because it's gonna fall apart under scrutiny. So please don't look at that. Basically, cable companies charge what people are willing to pay because they often have a monopoly or duopoly in a given area, and it's usually basically robbery. See also the collapse of Adelphia, where they bought a $30,000 elephant foot umbrella stand.
That's an old name I haven't thought of in years.
That's generally price fixing is a terrible idea, and that's kind of what they're looking at here. But once you've gone this far,
I love how we skirt around. It's like, is this some form of price fixing? And it's like, well, this just sounds like price fixing with more steps. And then they make it not price fixing by adding more steps once the FCC catches up. And so now it's just so many steps toward price fixing that it confuses any mortal who looks at it.
no, I'm talking about price fixing from the government. I mean, companies should be able to fix their prices, but once you've given them subsidies and monopolies,
At that point, it's practically a public utility.
yeah. So the argument falls apart. You got to keep your hands off it first, and since we haven't done that, it's a hard decision to make. But I don't know. Good luck to the FCC.
See also all of the towns and cities that have gotten so fed up with their local cable providers, they try to do it on their own. And it's like, no, it's so fast. Government shouldn't compete with private business. It's like, but it's so hard for private business to be in that business.
And then the monopolies use the government policies to attack them. So it's a bad situation that we're in.
How are we that blatantly dysfunctional? If we're that blatantly dysfunctional with everything, how could we possibly get the subtleties right? As in our next case.
Because we put the government in control in the first place, and they can't do anything right. And they can't stop mega mergers. As much as everybody looking at it says, God, this is going to be bad for literally everybody except the company and the shareholders, and not even the whole company, probably just the board, because a lot of them are going to get fired. But yet, here we are.
The US FTC tries again to stop Microsoft's already closed Activision deal. This is the Reuters headline. This is a last-ditch effort. It's not going to work out for them. This is just wasted effort.
There is zero chance. I don't even know why they're wasting our time.
Probably so it looks better on like someone's election record or something.
Yeah, that's an
we
excellent
tried.
point. Well, I was the only one to try to stop this. And by mid-2024, we'll have so many examples of why that was bad for the consumer, they can roll those out.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a smart play. Evil, but smart. And here's a play that may not have been so smart, and once again illustrates why we should not let the government be in charge of any of this.
Congress provided $7.5 billion for electric vehicle chargers, but so far, zero. I feel like if Congress gave us $7.5 billion, and
You'd never see me again.
we would get a lot of electric chargers out, and then you would never see us again. We could do more than zero, certainly.
They blame the red tape and the stringent requirements for the chargers, but I mean,
We build gas pumps all over. Like, there's probably some differences, but
I'm sure that Tesla would sell us some OEM chargers.
Yeah.
That we could just hook up.
I'm pretty sure that we could deploy a nuclear reactor to power at least a half a dozen electric vehicle chargers.
also the picture in that article is like the most incredible looking gas pump I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's like something from Cyberpunk.
I thought that was an actual Tesla charger.
Is it? I've never seen one.
It may be.
I've never seen one at night, I guess.
Guaranteed that's going to play ads though.
Yeah.
Oh, they all do. Oh, I hate that. I hate that so much. Someone on our local little gas station has marked which button mutes them.
We did this before, and some people thanked us in the comments. Usually on the standard template gas pump, it's on the right, one button down. That's the mute button. They won't label it, but you can push it.
Unless you have, a good Samaritan in your community who labels it for you.
Also, look for clues like which button is the most pressed. Usually it's got the plastic worn off of it because everyone is looking for the mute button.
Now, usually when you're standing there pumping gas, you probably just play it on your phone, right? Even though they warn against that. Nobody takes that seriously anymore. And maybe you get some text messages while you're there. Well, here's some bad news. Because you were still connected to your car by Bluetooth, most likely at that point, you're not the only one reading those text messages.
Automakers' data privacy practices are unacceptable, says U.S. Senator. This is kind of a follow-up to the story that we did a couple of weeks ago where it was a case in Washington where automakers won. They won the right. In the fine print in the terms of services says we can just dump the contents of your phone regardless of when you got the text message. And that's apparently okay.
So Senator Markey has given them a large list of bullet points. He expects all these to be answered by, I think it was December 14th.
Someone should give that senator a memo that's like, if you just cut the knees off of surveillance capitalism everywhere, it will take care of this problem and a whole host of other problems. If you make surveillance-based ads go away, that will also simultaneously solve this problem.
It will probably also simultaneously mean you'll never be reelected. Mm-hmm. And you might be killed.
But if you want to do good, this is what you should do.
And if you're a U.S. Senator, we know that you don't want to do good. Or you never would have gotten there. And we have the Section 230 battle is back again. This time with a sneaky, sneaky way of trying to get it through without actually having the old argument.
Even if you hate both AI and Section 230, you should be concerned about the Hawley Blumenthal bill to remove 230 protections from AI. This is on Tech Dirt. And kudos to the person who picked this up, because if you read this and you read the first couple pages of the bill, it's like, okay, what are they trying to do here? And then you get to the end and it's like, oh, this isn't good.
These two paragraphs in particular, we won't read them, but you can use the one tab link and go and read them yourself. Basically, it can be applied to anything, even down to an autocomplete field, because an autocomplete field is predicting what you want using some kind of algorithm. And according to this, any kind of that, a spell checker, a grammar checker, would strip your 230 protections because you used a machine to do some sort of modification before you posted.
Surprise. It's like, they'll never use it for that kind of thing, right? And then you look at all of the other cases we've covered where they've driven a truck through a mouse hole sized hole in the language.
And I mean, AI is going to be touching everything, even if it's not already, very soon. So even if just to censor you, wouldn't that be hilarious if the censorship algorithm was the one that disabled 230 so that it could
more effectively censor you?
And China continues to be a bit of a villain in our national narrative, and we want to keep them from getting the chips. Now, Nvidia, on the other hand, doesn't want to stop getting all of that money. So they've been playing fun little games with the 4090 and was it the A6000?
And the 4090D.
And maybe labeling things a little bit differently. And the U.S. is like, hey, guys, come on.
The Reuters headline is Nvidia is working closely with the U.S. to ensure new chips for China are compliant with curbs. In a kind of a rare move, one of the, I think it was it the secretary or the Treasury Commerce person said, look, if you're designing a product specifically for China to go around U.S. regulations, like we're just going to ban the product. Like we're not going to look at it. We're just going to ban it.
We're not even going to look at it.
Yeah, it's like whatever like kind of technical loophole you're trying to exploit Nvidia, we're not going to let you exploit the technical loophole. We just don't want you to sell this kind of hardware to these countries. It's that simple. And it's like, well, could we have that same sort of rationale and logic applied to, I don't know, broadband in America? We're not going to let this company do anti-competitive things to the broadband market. It's just plain and simple. It doesn't matter the language of the law. This is what we're going to do.
This just means Nvidia hasn't paid up enough yet to get that overlooked.
So Reuters has some more details about that and some of the other stuff. And so Nvidia said, oh, we're going to try to comply. Maybe even if we have to keep making old products, we will, because there's a market there.
Well, the government gives a lot of money to the broadband industry, and it's disgusting, and they let all these other companies merge and do exactly what they want. But there is one industry that can literally do anything that it feels like and gets the lion's share of our tax dollars and even the money they borrow in the name of us that we don't actually give them. And that is the defense industry. so they can build fun things like this.
The 404 headline is the mystery customer for Palmer Luckey's anti-aircraft killing drone is U.S. Special Forces. Wasn't he the Facebook virtual reality guy?
Quite a shift, huh? So they actually did not tell who was the customer here. They got a fun little video of it. They did say they had a big customer, but they're like, oh, we can't tell you who. But the 404 reporters said that it was pretty trivial to look back at some records, and it's SOCOM. So they want these things. These can take down drones or aircraft. And if you don't use them, they can come and do the autonomous landing, just like the SpaceX.
Neat. Probably could use a lot of those in Ukraine, huh?
Please no. And the defense industry, you know, like you got to think that if you're in that circle, maybe you get a little divorced from reality because you're willing to have, you know, speaking engagements and conventions and actually say things like this.
The headline from Vice is Pentagon scientists discuss cybernetic super soldiers that will feel nothing while killing dystopian presentation. So while I read the headline, what you should have been visualizing is the Meet the Pyro.
I was envisioning just like any like COD lobby, you know.
Well, it's actually much darker than that because they literally discussed maybe taking elderly people and putting them in like exoskeletons and dosing them with stuff so that they could be soldiers again because they're not useful and we need to squeeze more of their blood.
Are we living in the early version of the Warhammer universe?
I'm laughing, but I'm feeling nervous because I'm going to be an old person one day.
They talked about it and there's quotes in there. It's like, oh, it could be great because like retired military guys could get more fulfillment in their life by killing, with robots.
I'm pretty sure that if we don't destroy ourselves as a species, if right now you were flash frozen and they took a high enough, slice imaging of your brain in that frozen state, they could recreate your consciousness at some point in the future. Like you just wake up in a machine. It's like, what happened? It's like, well, it was a success.
Smash my brain in so that never happens.
So you got to make sure that your death is horrible
Gruesome,
enough to
yeah.
not ever have to serve again. Well, we are doing some interesting testing, though, in the military front and learning things about our new technology and what the limits of it are. And this one seems like it's performing quite well in the most extreme conditions.
The headline is Starlink completes 9 months of military tests in the Arctic. And it was the military helping do the test because it's the Arctic. But strictly speaking, this wasn't actually a military test. Although they did say that it was really good for mobile as well as fixed applications. And it works surprisingly well, even in snowstorms.
They did have to change some of the hardware to stabilize it more for those winds and the bitterness there. But once they figured that out, they said it was very, very reliable.
Imagine that it is so frustrating that broadband in America is so bad that it takes someone with Elon Musk's agency to just say, okay, we're going to put satellites in space because there's too much bureaucracy to run fiber optic cables on the ground. Like we failed. We failed at that point.
Well, it's because nobody else is trying to innovate because
well, I mean, there are people
benefiting.
trying to innovate. There are people that are trying to like be a good ISP, but they don't know how to play the political game, and so nothing ever happens.
and they don't have access to the connections. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we'll do something that doesn't need connections. And Michigan is the first in the country to do this, which seems like a good idea.
Michigan installs the U.S.'s first wireless EV charging public roadway.
I'm surprised that you're into this because I immediately, having driven in Michigan, was like, that's going to be tore to hell in like 2 weeks.
This might be one of the more affluent
Areas.
and they might actually get road repairs. Yeah, it does seem weird. And you wonder how much expense is there going to be to keep this going?
Every time I've driven in Michigan, even in like nicer areas, just the roads are just brutal there.
And also, what's the EV uptake percentage in Michigan? It can't be as high as California, right? Whatever, they did it. We'll see if it works.
They need snow capability.
And Amazon is continuing to expand its empire, which means lots and lots of warehouses. Some people don't like it when an Amazon warehouse moves into town. They say it creates a lot of pollution from all the trucks and it's noise and it's maybe the people working there aren't the people you want in your community necessarily. But they have ways of getting past that.
Amazon brags that it quote-unquote cultivated a California mayor with donations in a leaked policy document. This is not atypical for literally any other company or broadband company or cable company or anybody. It's like, yeah, we cultivated a politician who understands our point of view.
Now, it wasn't too crazy. These were PPE loans, which he points out that he got from some other businesses as well. It's probably a conflict of interest to do that with the mayor, I would think. It was for the city, like not for him personally. They didn't give him any money. They did give him tours of the facilities and stuff. You know, they might have given him some little trinkets. He put out a statement and said, this is totally false. I'm not being influenced at all. In fact, I'm anti-Amazon.
He's holding a beer koozie with Amazon on it.
That'd be great if he was at his home.
Like a G Pie saying he's anti-Reese's.
Yeah, and he's got the Reese's mug.
They'd be interviewing him in front of his house, and then the Amazon van pulls up and just like package after package being unloaded. No, I just shop there a lot.
I mean, on the surface, there's not potentially anything wrong with this. If Amazon executives show up at your town and it's like, we're going to put in an Amazon hub or we needed to do this or whatever, they're going to negotiate and try to do an end run around whatever local laws or whatever local ordinances that you have in that area. And they may want to negotiate a tax package. It's like, we're going to bring in 1,000 jobs. We want a better tax rate. Okay, I mean, that kind of thing is fine-ish, basically, as long as it's done above board.
I could even see him wanting to go and see it. Be like, all right, show it to me.
Yeah.
And prove it to me that you're... So maybe that's...
But
maybe
that's not what happens most of the time.
Yeah.
But we don't have any proof that that wasn't all that happened here.
That's true.
It's important to point out.
Yes.
Now, this story points out maybe one of the biggest problems we have in the world, and I guess this has always been true, is that fame and even infamy opens up doors when it shouldn't. When we should just exclude someone entirely from our society, not even talk to them. Don't change their oil. Don't serve them food in a restaurant. When instead, they can do this.
The AP headline is George Santos is offering personalized videos for $200 on Cameo. Okay.
I hope that nobody is buying those. I know Fetterman bought one as like can
you make him say whatever you want?
No, but I mean, you can request it. He can either take it or turn down your $200, and he is going to be so much in debt.
There was another story where people had been ordering cameos from celebrities and then using that to feed deep fakes of them saying really
Terrible
insane,
things.
other terrible things. Yeah.
That's inevitable.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Disney's behind all that too.
I saw, that was where there was another one where they were asking, it's like, oh, do a special greeting for my friend Vladimir. And then they put that into a Putin video.
Yeah.
It's funny. Well, the EU is maybe doing something that is possibly good for the consumer. And I got to say, the EU does more pro-consumer stuff than our government does by a long shot.
EU Mulls extension of geo-blocking bans to video streaming platforms. I don't know why Torrent Freak didn't mention the what happened in Korea, because Twitch is exiting Korea as context for this, because it's like, okay, we're going to exit Italy. And it's like, okay.
Well, it's a different kind of thing here. What they're saying is you can't show one show in Greece and then not show it in France. Mm-hmm. You can't geo-block anything like that. It's got to be universal.
Another thing here in America that is so insane, like the cable lobby. It's like, I would like to watch the local sports team. And it's like, franchising agreements mean that you're not going to be able to watch your local sports team in your local area.
What's crazy is I don't know if it's still the case. I imagine it is. The New York Yankees used to have their own TV channel in New York, and you could not broadcast that anywhere else.
Can't just listen for things in the over-the-air airwaves. Can't just rent a 1-inch cube of airspace in New York and then DVR it to yourself over the internet. That's illegal all the way up to the Supreme Court.
I have a friend who's trying to get his mom. He got her an ESPN package just so she could watch UK games, and then somehow it didn't work, and because of all of the weird licensing agreements, and I was like, that just sounds like
That's the last bullet they have for cord cutting, right?
Yeah.
Is local sports. Because people around here live and die at University of Kentucky. And it's like, well, no, you have to.
Yeah.
You got to play ball with us.
I'm honestly surprised that UK hasn't done their own pay for TV thing on the internet with that. It's probably that their contracts preclude them from doing that.
NCAA will absolutely control that.
But if they did that, they could probably walk away from whatever requirement they have with their existing contracts.
We ought to just spin the whole collegiate sports world into a private enterprise at this point, right? Just separate it from the schools, because
If anyone in the audience has unlimited money, just right now hire a couple of people to form a coalition of the top NCAA teams to do their own money streaming on the internet, and I guarantee you're going to make more money.
The schools are all screaming like, "No, that's the only income we have."
No, the schools will be happy, and you'll be able to take the money away from the television companies. It'll be great.
I'm saying if you span off college sports away from colleges, they would be
the schools would
distressed.
not. I mean, you could still have them involved because they have to feed it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They would do the recruiting, I guess.
Yeah, do the coalition. Give them 49% or even 51% control of that new organization, and it will take broadcasters out. That'll be the final nail in the coffin on cable.
Or here's a shocking idea: pay the players.
We can't do that. That takes away from our profits.
And over in the UK, they are still having a bit of a row about the cloud services, and the cloud services are pointing to one another and saying that's the bad guy.
Amazon is the latest to criticize Microsoft in UK cloud market probe. That's weird because Amazon has, the Amazon Web Services, which is like the largest cloud thing ever.
But they claim that they are friends to interoperability, whereas Microsoft is not, because Microsoft will require a license, an extra license in some cases, if you want to move your cloud service to AWS.
Yeah, that is true. Amazon, there's a lot of, yeah. When you dig into it, when you think about Amazon and their, like I'm thinking Elasticsearch and PostgreSQL and Redis and some of those things, those have been embarrassing for Amazon, but Amazon hasn't acted completely amorally. Whereas Microsoft is straight up just, you're going to run not in the Microsoft cloud? Pay again for Windows.
Well, amorality is one of the topics that is hotly being debated in the UK because they, once again, what is this, the third time? The fourth time? They have come up with this stupid plan. But I think this is actually something else.
The Verge headline is the UK tries once again to age-gate adult material on the internet. But this is being snuck in via the back door, I guess, pun intended, on the thing that already passed that we reported on a couple of weeks ago.
Now, here's my theory. This, because you know how everybody's always like, adult material has driven all innovation on the web, right? Or on the internet. Because it really is the first product that comes around when we get a new kind of protocol or something. I think the idea here is to put this in place so that people are like, oh God, okay, I'll do it. Where they wouldn't if you were like, hey, to use Facebook, you have to let me scan your face. People would be like, nah, you know what? I don't want Facebook. But when you apply it to this, they'll be like, okay. And then once they do that, just roll it out to everything.
It's so dystopian.
That's the world we live in now. Just a dystopia.
Well, the Swedes are trying to make things a little less dystopian, and now they've got their bros at arms with them.
Swedish Tesla strike goes international as Norwegian and Danish unions join in.
I'm in danger.
Yeah, it's not going according to plan for Mr. Musk. Perhaps he should not have been so hardline. Like, no, we don't negotiate with. It's like his comments on this are crazy too. It's like, oh, I don't want lords and plebs is why we don't negotiate with unions. And it's like, I don't think you understand how those work.
He's had some unhinged things to say lately.
It seems like such cold countries. Why would you want an EV in such a cold place? The performance is going to suck, right?
Maybe it's gotten better. Probably not.
Are there roads and road maintenance so amazingly good that it doesn't matter?
It might not, because I know in some cold places they actually, plow roads and.
I mean, it's still going to be cold. Still going
Yeah.
to lose your battery distance and stuff. Any Swedes, Danes, and or was it Finland?
Norway?
No, it wasn't Finland.
Yeah, Norway. Any Tesla's owners out there that are willing to admit it? And you mentioned the advertisements, the fake advertisements. Now, we've seen this over and over where there was Scarlett Johansson and several other, James Earl Jones got hit with one, right? Bruce Willis, I think, got hit with one. It's not them. It's a deep fake or some kind of AI or some kind of manipulation. So what can you do about it?
The Irish Independent is Micheál Martin initiates high court proceedings against Google over scam advertisements. Yeah, doesn't seem to be a lot of checking going on nowadays.
In this case, it was him presenting an idea that he doesn't agree with. So this could literally hurt his political career.
See also ads you get sometimes on this platform.
You guys are watching ads when you watch our videos, right? If you're not, Patreon and Float Play.
And moving
We
down to
love
South
you.
America, Brazil, famously, a lot of these South American countries, when the AI ChatGPT first rolled out, they were like, ooh, we're going to use that in the government. And people were like, hit the brakes here, guys. That might be a terrible idea. And so they were like, okay, maybe. But at least one of them was like, secretly, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm just not going to tell you till later.
The Associated Press headline is Brazilian city enacts an ordinance that was secretly written by ChatGPT. We covered this before, but the Associated Press actually dug into that because they said, there's no way that's real. And they dug into it, and it turns out.
So yeah, they all voted on it and agreed to it. And he was like,
Psych.
it was AI and you love it and it's still good. And so do you peel that back even though people seem to agree with it? Or
If you're using it as a tool to make yourself more clear, that's one thing, versus it's like, here's what I want to accomplish, here's the background, codify that in law where the language exists in the four corners of the document to explain what it is, then okay, yeah, that makes sense. But
Do you think anybody actually read it? That's another good question.
probably not.
Yeah.
If that's what happens in the US, nobody reads. Nobody reads for comprehension. And a lot of the time they try to sneak in things that have double meanings on purpose, it seems. And then later you find out, oh yeah, they were using the other meaning for that. Oh, that's great.
that's not how some government should ever work.
Yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't it be plain language that people can understand? Well, some plain language was definitely given to the United Arab Emirates leaders by the US government because they basically said, you've got a choice to make.
The UAE's top AI group vows to phase out Chinese hardware just to appease the US, according to the Financial Times. Now, we've seen this kind of thing happen before, but usually the company comes out and says, oh, yes, we did find something that is of a security concern, but is unspecified. But this AI group did not do that.
Well,
They just said this was economic.
Yeah, they didn't put any security label on this. It was just like the US says we can either have Chinese hardware or we have US hardware and AI technology. So we have no choice. We must choose. They weren't even like anti-China in their press release. They were kind of like apologetic. Sorry.
Sorry, bros.
This girl's just so much hotter. What can we do? And here's a terrifying thing because this is something that, it's kind of like the satellite TV stuff where they're like, oh, you're stealing our signal. It's like, bro, you're shooting it into my house. But in this case, it's not the people sending you the signal, but just the fact that the signal is coming to you that can allow you to be surveilled.
Government spying on Apple and Google users through push notifications, according to this U.S. senator. So when your device is up and receiving a signal, other systems know where it is, and they know things about the signal. And they can also subscribe to other notifications. There's a lot of extra metadata in there, it turns out.
And they know what apps you're using. And maybe where you are when you're using them. What's hilarious here is that both Google and Apple gave press releases. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them was just like, finally, we can tell you guys about this. Yeah, this has been going on for a while. Yeah, we get a lot of requests for this.
Frustrating. Like, oh, as a citizen, should I know that this thing exists? Nah, don't worry about it. I mean, when they would wiretap the phones, at least, it was like, yes, we can get a wiretap order to wiretap a phone. This doesn't require anything special. This is business records. They don't have to get a warrant.
Now if you celebrate Christmas and you're going to be with your family on this Christmas and you're sitting around opening presents, let me give you this tip. If somebody unwraps a 23andMe box or, subscription plan or whatever, you want to get up, snatch it out of their hands and throw it right in the fireplace. Because that's the only way you can protect yourself from your stupid relatives.
23andMe confirms hackers stole ancestry data on 6.9 million users.
Oh,
Nice.
you're going to get some blackmail for Christmas. That's not your real dad.
And it doesn't matter if you're one of those 6.9 million. You just have to be related to one of those 6.9 million.
Who could have possibly predicted that this would happen?
And this is a bit of a follow-up that I should have sorted with the other car story.
Whoops.
But this is actually going to give you some relief. However, I looked into it and it's not simple.
Your car is probably harvesting your data. Here's how you can wipe it. Yes, there are some car operating systems that go so far as to just probe the MAC addresses of Wi-Fi access points nearby just to know where it is without even using GPS, just to have that. Because you can sell that data, it turns out.
And dump all your text messages. That's the most egregious one.
Yeah.
Like your car knows your text message and it's selling that data. So you have to go to this person's website and put in your VIN number, and it will give you then more. Yeah, this is the dude.
I don't know if I trust that.
In the new world, everybody just
No. I mean, it's not the hair. I just putting in my stuff on some random website.
all your VIN numbers all over the
yeah.
public. Anyway, that will give you further information on how to specifically deal with your car model in terms of wiping the data. Here's the thing, though. There is no like stop it. You can delete what's there, but then you have to do that every so often to keep it clean.
Fabulous.
Unless Senator, was it Wyden, gets his way? I don't see him winning that fight.
Listen, just doing away with the whole surveillance capitalism that cuts everything off at its knees.
Yeah, including the people that run this country. They don't. I gotta tolerate that. And here's a little terrifying doom porn for you.
Not the
this week.
furries this week.
Stella-filled nuclear site hacked by groups linked to Russia and China. Has to do with nuclear waste storage and safely storing nuclear waste.
Maybe they need catgirl research as well.
This is where all the old used materials go.
That's what you need to start making catgirls.
Once your cat girl ages out, you gotta send her here.
To be stored for thousands of years.
Put in a cell. Now the terrifying thing here is this: they're not actually sure, but they think this could have been going on as far back as 2015, persistently until now. They say it's China and Russia monitoring what's going on at the. The other thing that they just casually, put in this article, there's also some leaks at this place. Not data leaks, radiation leaks.
Can we, the non-human intelligence that deactivated the nuclear warheads that were in flight, can we send them over there and have them deactivate some of the nuclear waste? That would be fabulous.
How about we just SpaceX it into the sun?
There are a lot of plans for that. It's just the risk of an explosion and spreading it everywhere is too high.
One accident would be all it took.
But once we get SpaceX, when SpaceX has done like 3 years of daily launches with nothing bad happening, we should think about that. I guess a terrorist could still.
Yeah, it's such a target.
Well, you know what else is a target? Literally every computer in the world.
Just about every Windows and Linux device is vulnerable to a new logo fail firmware attack. So you want to get a system from somebody and they want to customize the boot time logo. Well, it turns out there's no security checks for the boot time logo. The boot time logo can be an image file. It's not an image file. That actually contains malicious payload code, which can then load stuff into your operating system or mess with your boot sector or bypass secure boot, whatever you want to do. It's fabulous.
And if someone were to get access to your system and overwrite that logo, there you go. That's all it takes.
Yay.
Maybe we should do away with any images on that screen. ASCII art.
Yeah.
They should convert all their logos to ASCII art.
Or just, harden the image encoding or something.
There are apparently some updates that you can get. It depends, on what your individual thing. So go read the article, click the links, share them. And if you're using a password manager, again, maybe not the best idea because once again, it's the Android operating system that is not good enough, not your password manager.
Your mobile password manager might be exposing your credentials because they're poorly designed.
The autocomplete can be tricked into putting that information into a field that is not the protected. So like Android operating systems got the fields that are protected. It's like, oh no, your app doesn't get to look at this. Only the operating system does. And they're like, well, what about these other fields? And it's like, yeah, let's put that in there. And they can look at it. And this is just sort of a general misery of what it's going to be like in the future.
Due to AI, quote unquote, we are about to enter the era of mass spying, says Bruce Schneier. This guy knows what he's talking about.
Well, he makes an important distinction. He talks about surveillance versus spying, right? Mm-hmm. So if I surveil you, I know what you're doing, but I don't know what you're thinking or what you're intending. But once I put AI on that surveillance data, now I know what you're thinking and what you're intending. So I can't just say, Krista's stealing Netflix. I can say that Krista is intentionally sharing her Netflix account.
I would never do that.
Yeah, the commercial exploitation of this is going to happen very quickly if it's not already happening, because the temptation for executives, like think cable company executive, like I would like to know all of the people that are involved in this rural broadband initiative and know what their thoughts are and show up at meetings and then just pollute and muddy the waters and slow everything down. We were already doing that before AI, but now it's going to be an order of magnitude less effort for them to destroy local broadband efforts. As just one tiny example in a whole sea of possible examples. Think about regulation and exposing corruption, and it's going to sow just enough doubt to make everybody confused and ineffective at routing out the corruption.
And think about the NSA and the CIA and all the stuff that
That's the next level.
The data centers that they've been operating since 2001 at least. They still have all that data. So now they can go back and apply AI to it. And maybe some of the stuff that you posted online or talked about in, 2008 now can be interpreted and revisited.
I would like to do a query for people that are reasonable people and that are interested in fair dealings. And we're going to do everything we can to destroy them.
0 results.
I'm just imagining a scenario where like they look it up or whatever and they apply it to mine. It's like, this person is mentally unstable. Keep an eye on her.
And here's your weekly reminder that stuff in the cloud doesn't belong to you. Actually, this is not even the most extreme reminder that we have for that this week.
After unexplained bans, PlayStation users report their accounts have been restored. Hundreds of users were locked out of their PlayStation accounts and mysteriously they're back. They figured out they made a mistake. After they noticed a lot of people complaining very loudly. Which begs the question is like, how many mistakes did they make in the past which they weren't noticed?
Probably a lot. Now, we get a lot of suspicious Amazon products, usually in the nonsense section. It's like, what are they thinking selling this? I don't know if I agree with this. This is blaming the gun a little bit. But at the same time, like, it's hard to defend this one.
Ars Technica's headline is, in this case, the judge says that Amazon cannot claim shock that a bathroom spy cam was used as advertised. This was in West Virginia.
So,
oh, that's a little too close for comfort.
If you can get this here towel hanger, that is actually a spy cam. You could possibly use that for non-nefarious reasons. This guy did not. This was another. I don't think this was even the same, because remember last week it was the toothbrush.
Yeah.
This is another foreign exchange student. Apparently, this is a big thing that guys are doing. Bring a foreign exchange student into your home and then put the spy cam in the bathroom that they use.
And can we get just Amazon? How many of these did you sell?
It's so hard to keep track of all that information about where all the money comes from. We have so much of it.
And we talked about last week the printer bug, and we thought that was just Microsoft being Microsoft and putting bloatware onto our machines, but it turns out it was even more of a mistake than that.
A Windows Update bug is renaming everyone's printer to an HP M101-M106. This might be HP's final move to become the most hated printer company on planet Earth.
So it turns out this mistake was what was behind the installation of the HP drivers that everybody was getting. And they were like, wait a minute, I've never had an HP printer. Well, according to your operating system, all printers are HP printers now. So everybody got the package. And the US government is not good at protecting your data. Think about this. Think about how bad of a job they just did here, and think about all of your data that they have and how much more they want.
Hackers breach U.S. government agencies using Adobe ColdFusion exploit. And right now there's a whole bunch of government contractors that are thinking, see, you should have renewed our maintenance contract.
Including ColdFusion 2018, which was still running in the government.
Is that even a little bit surprising with government entities?
No. Yeah, a little bit, but also no.
Now, I did not have time to look. This was December 7th, so it's not even like, I don't think there's been an update. But the mystery here, there's so many questions.
Nintendo cancels Japanese esports events following threats to staff and spectators, but we don't have any details.
Why?
Weird.
What do you think could cause somebody to threaten? This was for, they're going to have some kind of like convention or something. Or maybe it was a tournament.
I would assume a tournament if it's esport.
Live 2024 Tokyo. I don't know. I'm sure it probably had tournaments and, convention type stuff. Oh, yeah. Splatoon and Mario Kart tournaments as well.
Wall jumping is not a valid strategy, and someone was like, threaten.
I don't know. I can't imagine. Maybe it's Microsoft. And this is not really a piece of news, but this is the EFF has laid out a series of things that need to happen, which is kind of what Wendell's been harping on the entire episode. And it is a great list. Don't expect this to ever happen.
Nothing's ever going to happen with this.
This is just a beautiful dream.
The Electronic Frontier Foundation has a blog post. To address online harms, we must first consider privacy. This is very cogent. You should go read and understand this. No behavioral ads.
So every social media company immediately is going to lobby against that.
This is very well written. It's a very clean, easy to understand argument. This is something you can share with your family. This is a roadmap for how we can get from here to there.
Data minimization, the security agencies immediately are going to hamstring that. Opt-in, we've seen what Facebook did with opt-in in Europe. Users access to their own information. How much is Amazon going to fight that?
The only thing they missed is end-to-end encryption. And that was rolled out by Facebook, which the FBI did not approve of, which is funny.
No preemption of state laws. We haven't had that since the 1900s.
I wasn't... Yeah. Well, the preemption of state laws is that the federal law should be the floor of functionality, not the ceiling. So the federal law says it must be at least this good, but state laws can go further. That'd be okay. Kind of like what California is right now.
The federal government should only have the powers that have been granted to them by the Constitution, as laid out in the Constitution. None of this is in there. And finally, if you are a manga lover, you must be very cautious. Maybe you're just like, oh man, this is a really great page. I want to share it with my friends. Don't even think about it.
The Torrent Freak headline is legal manga app user banned after taking quote unquote fraudulent screenshots.
Which is any screenshot. So these apps are detecting screenshots.
But not doing anything to stop them.
Well, yeah, they're doing something to stop them. Banning you entirely.
Oh. What if you just accidentally hit the buttons?
That's what happened to this guy. So apparently Apple has a new feature where if you tap the back a certain way, it'll take a screenshot. And I think he was just on a bus. And it was like, no more manga for you, sir.
Oh. The amount of times I just dropped my phone on my face while like on my phone in bed. I feel like I would hit stuff like that really often.
That would be funny if, like some security person has to look at their camera to determine if you were.
It's just me like half asleep.
What sort of a dystopia is it that the application that you use to consume media tattles on you depending on how you consume it?
Yeah, and the idea of like, oh, I just want to make a record of this for myself for later on is the grounds to cut you off completely.
Yeah.
In an automated fashion. I don't think a human looks at that.
No.
That's our future.
We're living in the worst timeline.
You could just buy the book version of it and he could have just like photocopied it. No one would have known.
That would still be illegal.
Uh-huh.
All right.
I would download a car.
We're on a tight schedule today.
Bye.